it's a true story. I skipped school one day, pretended to be sick, and I stayed home because Creature from the Black Lagoon was the morning movie. Watched that, and just about the time I was going to start feeling better, they announced the afternoon movie was going to be Lon Chaney, Man of a Thousand Faces, starring Jimmy Cagney. So I watched that. The only thing I remember from the Lon Chaney story was that the scene where Lon Chaney Sr. walks in, catches his son, Lon Jr., playing in his makeup kit, and he yells at him and all that. That's all I remember. I just remember, that's a kid. I'm a kid. I could do that.
Oh, wow.
Done.
Welcome to the Filmmaker Mixer Podcast, the podcast by filmmakers for filmmakers. Filmmaker Mixer is a creative hub where aspiring and established filmmakers come together to share experiences, insights, strategies, and inspiration.
Hello, everybody. This is the Filmmaker Mixer Podcast, and today we're joined by Emmy-nominated makeup department head Corey Castellano, whose amazing work on Monster, the Ed Gein Story, transformed Charlie Hunnam into one of the most infamous characters in our history. So, Corey, how you doing today?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. And you're in Florida. You working on a new show, or are you taking a break?
Uh, uh, I'm in prep for another project, so
Nice.
got a few minutes here, and then heading out of the country. So
Oh, wow. Well, very good. Well, congrats on the Emmy nomination. That's pretty awesome.
thank you. Yeah, I'm very pretty excited about it. So
Yeah. Well, the episode you're nominated for was called The Godfather, correct?
yes, yeah, that's
Well,
correct.
I'm curious, what was it about that episode that you think caught the attention of everyone, and what unique things did you have to overcome in order to create the look for that show?
For that particular episode, we had the we call it the squiffy eye, the hooded lid that Ed Gein was really known for, which played throughout the entire series. But in addition to that, we also had multiple stages of aging on on Charlie as Ed to show the time passage and to highlight while he was incarcerated in the mental institution.
Well, one of the things I read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, is that for Emmy nominations in this category, you can't do any digital work on these looks. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. That's one of the stipulations that it can't be a hybrid type of makeup that relies on anything digital, like removing a nose
Right.
to make a skull face, that sort of thing. So it needs to be practically physically applied to the actor.
Well, knowing that it's got to work 100% on its own, is that more difficult?
It can be a little stressful. Uh, but the nature of the things that we were doing was pretty specific, and our wonderful directors Max and Ian were very conscientious of asking, can we shoot it this way? Is it okay if we're on a low angle, that sort of thing? And we tried to build everything so that they were not limited in what they did.
Well, that brings me to a question. So, when you do the look, how can I best put it? Are you creating a 360 look so the camera can go anywhere it wants, or do you have to adjust things for, say, a close up or a high shot or a low shot?
Generally, the way I like to approach it anyway, and what most makeup artists would want to do is just provide a playground for them to do, for the actor to do whatever he wants to do in the scene, and allow the director to get whatever he wants.
Right.
So we approach it very holistically, trying to make sure that there's no, oh yeah, you can shoot it from the right side today, but not the left. That's
Whatever you do, don't go over there.
yeah, exactly. There's nothing back here to see, you know. So we try to avoid that, but that's the basic idea. Try
Well,
to make it as complete as possible.
well, on that same note, what do you take into consideration to enhance the performance versus makeup that could constrain the character? Does that make sense? I mean, I know you have to get the look you want, but you have to
Sure.
be conscious of the performer. How does that dance work?
It's a very fine balance. There's a couple of things that go into it. Of course, using materials that are very flexible and move with the skin and allow the actor, full range of expression. But in addition to that, making sure that whatever we've decided to do or to apply more specifically is as thin and light and comfortable as possible, but still evoking the image we want. Rather than, for example, burying Charlie in a half inch of rubber to make him look exactly like Ed Gein, we chose a few elements like the eye. And Charlie managed to lose a whole lot of weight, so we didn't have to do anything particular for that. But basically, you put yourself in a position to evoke a likeness rather than trying to completely encase somebody in rubber, so that your actor still comes through.
So you're trying to create the spirit of the character, I suppose, as opposed to like a
That's a
look-alike.
nice way. Yeah, that's a
And
nice way to put it. Yeah.
and what thought process goes into those decisions? I know you mentioned the eyes. What are you looking at that you're trying to create that spirit of the character, if that makes sense? What motivates you? What are the things that are motivating you to make the decisions?
Uh, Basically, just elements that would be really recognizable. As for example, with Geen, one of the things that he was known for was having that hooded lid on one eye, and an odd haircut, which was handled by our lovely hair department, Barry Moe and Erica Adams. But trying to make sure that there are key features that if it's someone that we've seen, in history, like Abraham Lincoln, oh, the beard and the nose and the mole, that kind of thing. There's the elements that you key on that trigger that memory,
Right.
that thing in your monkey brain that says, "Oh yeah, I've seen that before. That's right." So we try to go down that road as much as possible.
And when you're doing an aging process,
Mm.
I guess I'm getting in the weeds a little bit here, but how do you track the look you're going for? I mean, is that something you work it out in sketches first, and then you itemize, hey, this is this time period, this is that time period. How do you track all that?
Yeah, that's a little bit trickier. But for Charlie, for this, I what I did, I took a handful of images of Charlie with the eye on already, and I like to work in Photoshop primarily, at least initially, and go in and start doing different designs and try to age him 10 years, age him 15 years, age him 20, 30, whatever it is. And then we'll take those and present those to Ryan and Max and get people to sign off and say, yeah, we like that look. That's appropriate for where we want to go. And then for the show, in this show in particular, we broke into a couple of discrete stages. So there would be a noticeable time jump in his look. So it's a good visual cue for the audience, and it kind of lands where we're trying to drive that bus.
And are you even doing like camera tests of these look? Do you go the different looks? Do you go that far? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We'll go ahead and get well, for the eye we had, I think, three or four different versions that we worked with to make sure that we were on target with that. And then the aging, I think we had maybe one test, one day of tests, I should say, of the two looks that we did, um, where we were able to put those on Charlie and get a thumbs up from Ryan and all the powers that be.
And I know, a lot of shows are shooting, 4K, 6K. I would guess, back in the day, you could hide a lot. And I don't think that's really so much true anymore. So how have techniques changed to be able to accommodate for these amazing camera resolutions we have now?
Yeah, the medium used to be much more forgiving back in the day.
Before all
But
the news stations had to change all their
Yeah,
sets and all their
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, initially, yeah, we started out doing things in foam rubber, which is an opaque material, foam latex, and you have to paint it very meticulously to add the life back in and the visual depth. Over the last probably 2 decades or so, we've gravitated towards using translucent materials, silicones that are extremely flexible. They move very much like human skin, and we can actually pigment them internally, intrinsically, to closely match the actor, and then blending off your edges and adding those little details in the paint to make it come to life is what we try to do. So, but the biggest things are really just trying to make sure that there's not a visible difference between your appliance and the actor's skin, because with most of this, these appliances are just sitting in the middle of Charlie's face. So it has to blend pretty seamlessly to make sure that we're not tripping over ourselves and giving away the tricks. So
Yeah, I would bet it's hard to hide those seams and those stitch. I'm going to call them stitch points. I don't know if that's an accurate term or not, but where you're trying to blend between actual skin and the makeup, that's got to be tricky.
it can be. There's a whole host of things that go into it, blending and dissolving your edges off to try to get a very smooth and seamless transition, and then applying a little bit of paint. When we paint these things, it's all very washy. It's like watercolor, so it's all very translucent, so that you can see the life coming through, which is paramount with this kind of stuff. Um,
So what's the process? Is it latex first, and then you go through and you say you paint over it, or take me through a day. What's like a shoot day? When you start in the morning, what's the process, and how long
sure.
does it take?
The time varies naturally. The eye, I think we got that down to about 45 minutes, which to start that process, for example, Mark Neiman and I we had a template that we would put on Charlie's face so that we would land that exactly the same place every day. We would tack it on, and Charlie would take a look at it, and he would give a thumbs up or ask for a little modification. Charlie was integral to the process. He was so involved and so committed. It was amazing. Actually, the eye was his idea from the
Oh, is
beginning.
that right? Interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. He pitched that to Ryan and got it to happen after a couple of tests. But anyway, so we get the appliance on, and once it's properly adhered, then we go in, and it has a vinyl jacket or a skin to it that will go ahead and dissolve those edges off and melt those edges into the skin. And once that's all done, we may or may not do a little pass of an adhesive over the whole thing to kind of lock it in. And then we start the painting. And I'll grab my alcohol colors, which are more tenacious than regular makeup, and just very washy, like I said, like watercolors. Just add some reds and some browns and some flesh tones in there until it starts to look just like Charlie.
And are you doing like contours of faces, like skin wrinkles and things? Is that through paint or through latex or both?
Both. Like when we did the aging, for the aging, for example, we would start by doing the eye first initially, because why not? But then we
Got to
would
start somewhere.
yeah, you may as well. We knew what we were doing with that. No, but then we would apply a forehead piece, the 11s, the little frown lines here in the center, eye bags that came under the eye, gave him an eye bag, and then also gave him crow's feet at the same time, as well as nasolabial folds to give him that little bit of sag in there that Charlie did not have. And once all of that's on, again, same material, a silicone. Blend off the edges, smooth that into the skin, and then start painting. For that, Mark and I did that entire application, the aging application together. Uh, we would get all that on, and then start painting, and we would each start painting on either side, and then do-si-do about halfway through. So it was a nice cohesive paint job to get Charlie up to age.
And
So
how about environment? I guess if you're on a sound stage, that's one issue, but if you're on location, do you keep like a touch-up kit, or how do you maintain the look throughout the day?
yeah, absolutely. We have our set bags with us with our emergency our emergency supplies. But by and large, for the most part, the materials that we're using are really tenacious and don't require a whole lot of touch up throughout the day, unless we're in a really extreme environment. I remember Chicago. We were shooting a great deal of the project out just outside of Chicago, and the only time I got actually concerned, normally heat's a problem. The only times that I got concerned were there's a scene where it intercuts with the Buffalo Bill sequence from Silence of the Lambs, where Charlie as Ed is dancing to the song "Goodbye Horses," I think it is, and so he's getting all sweaty and worked up, and then like dives into the snow. And he was doing that over and over, and then coming inside to warm up. So he's standing right over a heater. So I'm just waiting for the sweat bubbles to start popping up. But it held up, and we were okay. But that was the most nerve-wracking moment, I would think. So
Well, I'm curious about something. When we talk to DPs, they talk about seeing the world through light and shapes and images, and screenwriters are always listening to the sound of the of language and so forth. When you're out and about, how do you see the world when you're thinking about the way things look and faces and makeup and effects? What are you seeing that the rest of us aren't seeing?
Ooh, more than anything, I think when I'm seeing people or faces on the street, for me, I'm seeing the range of colors that are in skin, not in a group of people, but in like just in your skin, for example. I look at you and I see some whites, I see some tans, I see some reds, I see some yellows, I see a whole range of colors there. Um, and that's kind of what you have as a makeup artist. If you're doing prosthetics, you have to key on, because when you're doing a prosthetic, it's exactly the opposite of doing a beauty makeup. With a beauty makeup, you're
Right,
trying to hide
right,
all the
right.
imperfections. And when you're doing a prosthetic, you want to add all those little nuances in there that make it look real and livable. Um, so that's kind of the focus. And then of course, if I'm looking at older folks, looking at how the creases form, and how there's a natural weight to what happens to your skin as you age, uh, which arguably a lot of aging sculptures don't really work, or don't work as well as they could, because they don't have that weight to them, that natural slump that happens to the skin, over many, many years. So.
So you bring up something interesting. It's actually the flaws that make it realistic, I suppose.
Yeah.
The flaws in skin and the flaws, because like you said, it's not a beauty makeover. It's you're trying to create something real. So how do you are there things other than tone and color that you build into the makeup to, like moles and scars, and how does that work?
Yeah, we do. It all starts with like for a forehead appliance, let's just say. Um, it- the material that we're making it out of is a silicone, or sometimes it's a thing we call a Bondo, which is not like automotive Bondo. It's a medical adhesive that we've modified.
No
And
super glue and
no, we try to avoid that. But we'll take that and we'll add little bits of flocking, which is little tiny flocking fibers. Years ago, they used to use it for making little fuzzy toy animals, that sort of thing. And we'll take those little fibers and we mix those into the gel, the silicone, or the Bondo, and it adds little bits of pointillism, little bits of color and
oh,
imperfection
interesting.
and variation, and you can put three or four different colors or more, and you could actually do enough to land in a full skin tone. What we like to do is we'll do that and tint the gel so that it's just at the lightest highlight tone of our actor, and then we'll go back and add a little bit more depth and a little bit more color, usually with an airbrush, because we like to keep it very washy. And with an airbrush, you can actually spatter whatever you're painting, and you get little dots, and you get that little variation and randomness that fools the eye. It doesn't look fake, and it's not a brush and a swipe. It's just little dots, random dots. So that's how we go about doing that.
Interesting. How many passes are you doing on these things when you're building the look?
The with the painting, probably I think on Charlie we had about 6 different color passes
Wow.
to land where we wanted to. For the aging, the eye, I actually, oddly enough, I did that by hand with a brush, uh, doing a little bit of flicking and pointillism in there. But for the whole thing, it was about 6 colors, from a tan, a mauve, like a minty green color, a few other things that just to get that variation and that depth to it.
Right, right, right. I was talking with Barry Gower from Stranger Things the other day, and one of the things I asked him, and I want to ask you the same question. When I think of big moments in makeup and through cinema history, I think of Lon Chaney, with a Phantom of the Opera, or Jack Pierce and Frankenstein, and some of those big moments. Um,
Yeah.
do you think there have been moments that have really changed the industry? And if so, can you give me any examples, or are there any of those big changes that inspire you as a makeup artist?
Sure. One of my big influences and a mentor of mine was a fellow named Dick Smith. He famously he was one of the first, or he was the first studio makeup head for television for ABC, I believe it was, and he did some amazing age makeups. But for me, I think a lot of his work was foundational and to our whole industry, not just for me. But certainly the things that he did for The Exorcist, the work he did for Altered States, which
Oh yeah.
with the bladders, and you see things moving under the skin, and it looked absolutely real. Many years ago. But those sorts of things in particular, and probably Planet of the Apes for
Oh
me.
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
That was one that as a kid that captured my imagination, and um, that was that. But it's funny that you mentioned Lon Chaney, because growing up, my parents were older when they had me, and my dad would always tell me about Lon Chaney, Man of a Thousand Faces. Nobody
Oh
knows what he
yeah.
really looks like. And I love the stories, and I also love the gangster stories that my dad would tell me from the same era. And I remember, it's a true story. I skipped school one day, pretended to be sick, and I stayed home because Creature from the Black Lagoon was the morning movie. Watched that, and just about the time I was going to start feeling better, they announced the afternoon movie was going to be Lon Chaney, Man of a Thousand Faces, starring Jimmy Cagney.
Yeah.
Gangsters and make what the heck? So I watched that. The only thing I remember from the Lon Chaney story was that the scene where Lon Chaney Sr. walks in, catches his son Lon Jr. playing in his makeup kit, and he yells at him and all that. That's all I remember. I just remember that's a kid. I'm a kid. I could do that.
Oh wow.
Done. And here I am. So
That's fascinating. Well, awesome. Well, Corey, before we let you go, I just want to say congrats again on the Emmy nomination. And do you have a way people can follow you? Do you do like behind the scenes stuff, like on social media, Instagram, or anything like that?
yeah, I have Corey Makeup on Instagram, and that's probably the easiest.
Awesome.
So you can
Awesome. Well,
track me
congrats
down there.
again. And I'm sorry?
You can track me down there. So
Absolutely. We'll stay in touch. We should chat again.
I'd love that.
All right, man. You take care.
Thank, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Filmmaker Mixer Podcast, a podcast created and hosted by filmmakers Jeff Stolen and Andrew Lamping, and produced by Melody Lopez.
Our theme song was composed by Stephen D. Bennett.
Make sure to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and stay tuned for future episodes.